The insurance agent's voice on the phone was apologetic. "Mrs. Harrison, I'm so sorry for your loss. We just need to verify a few details before we process your death claim." I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "Did you say my death claim?" There was a pause on the other end. A long, confused pause that made my heart start hammering in my chest. "Yes, ma'am," the agent said carefully. "We received notification from your son, Michael Harrison, that you passed away 3 days ago. He's listed as your beneficiary, and he's filed a claim for the death benefit. But we need to verify some information with your healthcare provider and—" "Wait." I could hear papers rustling. "Mrs. Harrison," she said, and her voice had changed completely. Is this really you?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking now. "This is Patricia Harrison. I'm very much alive, and I'd like to know exactly what my son told you." "My name is Patricia Harrison. I'm 72 years old, and until that phone call on a Tuesday morning in March, I thought I knew my son. I'm calling to you today from my living room in Pennsylvania, where I've lived for 43 years. Before we go any further, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your state or country in the comments. It helps me know I'm not alone in this. Because what happened next made me feel more alone than I'd ever felt in my life." The insurance agent, her name was Jennifer, asked me to hold while she pulled up the claim. I stood there in my kitchen, staring at the wallpaper I'd picked out with my late husband 20 years ago, trying to process what I'd just heard. Michael had told them I was dead. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised by myself after his father died of a heart attack when Michael was just 15. The man I'd helped put through college, helped with his down payment on his first house, babysat his kids every weekend for years. He told an insurance company I was dead. "Mrs. Harrison?" Jennifer came back on the line. "I'm looking at the claim now. Your son submitted a death certificate dated March 14th. He stated that you were unresponsive when he found you and that you passed away from cardiac arrest. He provided what appears to be documentation from a funeral home in Pittsburgh. March 14th was 3 days ago. I'd been very much alive, very much responsive, watching my garden show and doing a crossword puzzle." "That's impossible," I said. "I spoke to Michael on March 13th. We had dinner together." "You had dinner with him?" Jennifer's voice was sharp now, professional. "Mrs. Harrison, I need to put you on hold again. This is a very serious situation." I waited, my hands trembling. Through my kitchen window, I could see Mrs. Chen, my neighbor, working in her garden. Everything looked so normal. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and somewhere my son had forged documents declaring me dead, so he could collect $300,000. $300,000. That was the policy my husband had taken out 30 years ago, the one I'd kept paying on because it seemed like the responsible thing to do. Michael knew about it. I'd told him years ago, made sure he understood he was the beneficiary. I just never imagined he'd try to collect it early. Jennifer came back on the line with someone else, a man who introduced himself as David Chen, the fraud investigation supervisor. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, his voice grave, "I need to ask you some verification questions. Can you tell me your date of birth, your social security number, and your current address?" I answered each question, my voice getting steadier with each word. This was real. This was happening, but I was here. I was alive, and someone needed to know the truth. "Mrs. Harrison, I'm going to be direct with you," David said. "This is insurance fraud. It's a federal crime. The documents your son submitted include a forged death certificate, falsified medical records, and fraudulent funeral home documentation. The death benefit on your policy is $312,000. If we hadn't made this verification call, which is standard procedure for claims over $200,000, that money would have been transferred to your son's account within 72 hours. 3 days. I would have been dead for less than a week before he cashed in. What happens now?" I asked. "We're freezing the claim immediately," David said. "And Mrs. Harrison, I have to tell you, we're obligated to report this to law enforcement. This isn't just insurance fraud. Your son forged official documents, including medical records and a death certificate. Those are serious crimes." "I understand," I said quietly. "Mrs. Harrison," Jennifer's voice came back on. "I have to ask, do you want to change your beneficiary? You have that right. You can do it right now, over the phone, while we have your son on file attempting to commit fraud." I thought about Michael. About the little boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard, calling them flowers for Mama. About the teenager who'd sobbed in my arms when his father died. About the man who'd called me 2 weeks ago asking to borrow $5,000 for car repairs. I'd said no. For the first time in my life, I'd said no to Michael. He'd been angry, cold. He'd hung up without saying goodbye. And 3 days later, he'd declared me dead. "Yes," I said. "I want him removed as beneficiary, immediately." "I'll need you to state that clearly for the recording," Jennifer said gently. "We're documenting everything." I took a deep breath. "This is Patricia Ann Harrison, policy number." I read the number from the letter I'd received months ago. "And I am requesting that Michael James Harrison be removed as my beneficiary, effective immediately. And Mrs. Harrison," David said carefully, "do you want your son to know you're on the line? We have him listed as the contact number for this claim. We were about to call him with some follow-up questions." My heart was pounding. Did I want Michael to know I'd caught him? Did I want him to hear my voice, the voice of the mother he'd tried to declare dead? "Yes," I said. "Put him on the line. I want him to hear this." The silence that followed felt like falling. It took them 3 minutes to conference Michael in. 3 minutes where I stood in my kitchen gripping the phone, trying to understand how I'd gotten here, how the child I'd raised had turned into someone capable of this. "Hello?" Michael's voice came through, casual, confident. "This is Michael Harrison. I was told you had questions about my mother's claim." "Mr. Harrison, this is David Chen from the Fraud Investigation Department," David said, his voice professional and cold. "I have some questions about the death claim you filed on March 15th. "Sure, of course," Michael said. I could hear it now, the slight nervousness underneath the confidence. "What do you need?" "Well, Mr. Harrison, we've been conducting our standard verification process, and we've encountered some irregularities." "Irregularities?" Michael's voice sharpened. "What kind of irregularities? I submitted everything you asked for. The death certificate, the funeral home documentation." "Yes, you did," David interrupted. "Mr. Harrison, I have someone else on the line who'd like to speak with you." The pause was brief. Then my son said, "Who?" I closed my eyes, opened them, spoke. "Hello, Michael." The silence on the other end was absolute. Not a breath, not a sound, just the hollow emptiness of a man whose world had just shattered. "Mom!" His voice cracked on the word. "Mom, what are you—" "I'm alive, Michael," I said, and I was surprised by how calm I sounded. "Very much alive, unlike what you told the insurance company 3 days ago." I don't understand. There must be some mistake." "The mistake," I said, "was mine. I made the mistake of trusting you, of thinking that when I said no to lending you $5,000 2 weeks ago, you'd understand. You'd respect my decision. I didn't realize you'd decide to collect $300,000 instead." "Mom, no, you don't understand." Michael's voice was rising now, panicked. "This is a misunderstanding. I was trying to help." "Help?" I asked quietly. "You were trying to help by declaring me dead, by forging a death certificate, by telling them I was unresponsive? Someone stole my identity. They must have—" "Michael," I cut him off. "They have your signature, your phone number, your address. You submitted documents with your email address. You called them yesterday asking about the timeline for payment." Another silence, longer this time. "Mr. Harrison," David said, "I'm going to explain what happens next. We are freezing this claim. We are reporting this fraud to the FBI, the Pennsylvania State Police, and the Insurance Fraud Division. You forged federal documents, including a death certificate and medical records. You attempted to defraud an insurance company of over $300,000. These are felonies." "Wait," Michael said. "Wait, please. I can explain." "Mrs. Harrison," Jennifer broke in gently, "we have your request recorded. Michael James Harrison has been removed as your beneficiary as of today's date, March 17th at 10:47 a.m. Is there anything else you need from us? No, I said. Thank you for calling me. Mom. Michael's voice broke. Mom, please, don't do this. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set the phone down on the counter. I stood there, staring at it like it was a bomb that had just gone off in my peaceful morning. My son had tried to kill me. Not with his hands, not with a weapon, but with paperwork and lies. He'd erased me from existence to cash in on my death. And if that insurance company hadn't made a routine verification call, he would have succeeded. I would have found out I was dead when my bank accounts were frozen, when my credit cards stopped working, when Social Security tried to reclaim my benefits. I would have spent months, maybe years, trying to prove I was alive while my son spent my death benefit. The thought made me sick. I walked to my living room and sat down in the chair where I'd been sitting 3 days ago, the day Michael had officially declared me dead. I'd been alive, breathing, watching television, eating dinner, existing, and he'd known it. My phone rang. Michael. I didn't answer. It rang again. Again. 6 times in 10 minutes. Then the text started coming in. Mom, please answer. This is all a mistake. Someone hacked my email. I would never do this to you. You're going to believe an insurance company over your own son? I can't go to prison, Mom. I have kids, your grandchildren. Think about them. That last one made me set the phone down. Think about them. Think about Rachel and Tommy, my grandchildren, 8 and 6 years old, sweet kids who called me Grandma Patty and drew me pictures. Michael was right about one thing. This would affect them. Their father was going to be arrested, charged, possibly convicted. Their lives would be turned upside down. But whose fault was that? I hadn't forged documents. I hadn't declared my own mother dead for money. I hadn't committed fraud. Michael had done this. Michael had made these choices. And he'd made them knowing exactly what the consequences could be. My phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Harrison? This is Detective Sarah Mitchell with the Pennsylvania State Police. I'm calling about the insurance fraud case that was reported this morning. So, it was moving fast. The insurance company hadn't wasted time. Yes, I said. That's me. I mean, I'm the one who's supposedly dead. I understand this must be incredibly difficult, Detective Mitchell said, and her voice was kind. I need to ask you some questions, and I need to inform you of your rights in this situation. You're the victim of fraud, Mrs. Harrison. You're also a witness. Do you have a few minutes to talk? I looked around my living room, at the photos on the mantle, Michael's graduation, his wedding, my grandchildren's birthday parties, at the life I'd built here over 4 decades, at the peace I'd fought so hard to maintain after my husband died. Yes, I said, I have time. And if you're still watching, wondering what happens next, please, hit that subscribe button, because this story is far from over, and you won't believe where it goes. Detective Mitchell asked me to come to the police station the next morning. She wanted a formal statement, she said. Documentation, evidence. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the moment I'd answer that phone call, the moment I'd heard those words. We're sorry for your loss. As if I'd lost myself. As if I could attend my own funeral. Had Michael thought about that? Had he planned what he'd say to people? Mom passed away peacefully in her sleep. Or maybe it was sudden. She didn't suffer. Would he have cried at my fake funeral? Given a eulogy? Let his children say goodbye to a grandmother who was still alive? The questions circled in my head like vultures. At 9 a.m., I drove to the state police barracks. Detective Mitchell met me in the lobby, a woman about 50 with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. Mrs. Harrison, she said, thank you for coming in. I know this isn't easy. She led me to an interview room. Not the kind you see on TV with the mirror and the hard chairs. This one was softer, with a couch and tissues on the table. They'd done this before. Talked to mothers whose children had betrayed them. I've reviewed the insurance company's report, Detective Mitchell said, opening a folder. Your son submitted forged documents on March 15th, a death certificate bearing the signature of a Dr. Robert Walsh from Pittsburgh General Hospital. Except doctor. Walsh died in 2019, and Pittsburgh General has no record of treating you. Ever. He used a dead doctor's name, I asked. Yes. He also submitted falsified funeral home documents from Henderson and Sons Funeral Home. They do exist, but they have no record of your son contacting them, no record of any arrangements for Patricia Harrison, and no record of any death certificate processing. Where did he get these documents? I asked. That's what we're trying to determine. There are websites, illegal ones, where you can purchase fake death certificates, medical records, even funeral home documentation. It's a growing problem. People use them for insurance fraud, for faking their own deaths, for escaping debt. And my son found one of these websites. We believe so. We're working on tracking his internet activity, his financial transactions. Mrs. Harrison, I have to ask, has your son ever done anything like this before? Fraud, forgery, theft? I thought about it, really thought about it. 3 years ago, I said slowly, he asked me to co-sign a loan. I did. He defaulted on it. I had to pay $12,000 to clear the debt. Detective Mitchell wrote that down. 2 years ago, he borrowed money from his aunt, my sister, and never paid her back. $5,000. She stopped speaking to him. More notes. Last year, he asked me to put a car in my name because his credit was bad. I said no. He got angry, didn't talk to me for 2 months. I paused, seeing the pattern for the first time. He's been doing this for years, hasn't he? I asked quietly. Not fraud exactly, but using people, using me. Detective Mitchell looked at me with something like pity. Mrs. Harrison, in my experience, fraud like this doesn't come out of nowhere, it escalates. Detective Mitchell asked me about the phone call with the insurance company. I told her everything. Michael's panic, his excuses, his attempts to blame identity theft. That's common, she said. Fraudsters almost always claim someone else committed the crime when they're caught. But the evidence is clear. The email address used to submit the documents is your son's personal email. The phone calls to the insurance company came from his cell phone. The claim form has his signature, and we've already verified it matches his signature on file with his bank. So there's no question, I said. It was him. No question, she confirmed. What happens now? We're issuing a warrant for his arrest. Charges will include insurance fraud, forgery of official documents, identity theft, and attempted theft. Combined, he's looking at up to 20 years in prison. 20 years. Michael was 43. He'd be in his 60s when he got out. Does he know? I asked. About the warrant? Not yet. We'll execute it today, probably within the next few hours. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael's wife, Jennifer. Mom, please call me. Michael says there's been a terrible misunderstanding. He needs your help. I showed it to Detective Mitchell. Do you want to respond? She asked. What would I even say? I asked. Your husband tried to declare me dead to steal $300,000, but sure, let's call it a misunderstanding. Mrs. Harrison, I have to tell you, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Your son will likely try to manipulate you. His wife will pressure you. Other family members will get involved. People will ask you to drop the charges. Can I asked. Drop the charges? This is a federal crime. The insurance company filed the report. The FBI is involved. Even if you wanted to drop it, which you can't, because you're not the prosecutor, this is going forward. Your son committed fraud against a federally regulated institution. I felt something like relief. The decision wasn't mine. I didn't have to choose between my son and justice. The law had already chosen. There's something else, Detective Mitchell said carefully. We've pulled your son's financial records. Mrs. Harrison, your son is in significant debt. Credit cards, personal loans, gambling debts. He owes over $200,000. Gambling debts. I didn't even know Michael gambled. The insurance payout would have covered most of it, she continued. We believe that's the motive. He wasn't just greedy, he was desperate. And I was his solution, I said quietly. die and solve all his problems. He didn't think you'd actually die, Detective Mitchell said. He thought he'd collect the money before anyone noticed the fraud. People commit insurance fraud all the time thinking they won't get caught. They don't realize how many verification systems are in place. That verification call saved my life, I said. Not literally, but it saved me. Yes, she agreed. It did. My phone rang. Michael. I silenced it. Mrs. Harrison, Detective Mitchell said, I need to prepare you for what comes next. Your son will be arrested. There will be media attention. Insurance fraud cases involving family members tend to attract reporters. Your grandchildren will find out. Your community will know. Are you ready for that? I thought about my quiet life, my garden, my routine. No, I said honestly, but I don't have a choice. They arrested Michael at his workplace that afternoon. Detective Mitchell called to tell me. He'd been taken into custody without incident, processed, and was being held pending bail hearing. He's asking to speak with you, she said. I have nothing to say to him, I replied. But that night, Jennifer called me, Michael's wife, the mother of my grandchildren. Mom, she said crying, please, you have to help us. Michael made a mistake, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. Think about Rachel and Tommy. They need their father. Jennifer, I said carefully, did Michael tell you what he did? He said there was a misunderstanding with insurance documents that... Jennifer, stop. Your husband filed a death claim on my life insurance while I was alive. He forged a death certificate. He told an insurance company I was dead so he could collect $300,000. That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud. Silence on the other end. You're lying, Jennifer finally said. Michael would never... Call the insurance company, I said. Call the police. They'll tell you exactly what your husband did. And Jennifer, did you know about Michael's gambling debts? The $200,000 he owes? Another silence. Longer this time. What gambling debts? She whispered. Ask him, I said. Ask him where the money went. Ask him why he needed $300,000 so badly he was willing to declare his own mother dead. She hung up. The next day, Michael's bail hearing happened. Detective Mitchell called me after. Bail was set at $250,000, she said. He can't make it. He's staying in custody until trial. How long until trial? I asked. 6 months, maybe more. Mrs. Harrison, there's something you should know. Michael's attorney is planning a defense. They're going to argue that you had a strained relationship, that you were estranged, and that Michael honestly believed you were dead or dying. I almost laughed. It was so absurd. I had dinner with him the night before he filed the claim, I said. We ate Chinese food. We talked about the grandkids. He asked me, again, for money, and I said no. He was angry when he left, but I was very clearly alive. I know, Detective Mitchell said, but they'll try. They'll paint you as a difficult mother, claim there was confusion, claim Michael was trying to help with funeral expenses. Funeral expenses? I interrupted. For a woman who isn't dead? It won't work, she assured me. The evidence is overwhelming, but I wanted you to be prepared. They're going to attack your character to defend his actions. That's when it hit me. Michael wasn't just going to accept consequences, he was going to fight. And fighting meant destroying me in court. My son was going to stand in front of a judge and jury and claim I was the problem, that somehow my being alive was the real crime. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Michael's attorney. He wanted to talk about a plea deal. Your son is willing to plead guilty to reduce charges, the attorney said, but he wants assurance you'll speak on his behalf at sentencing. I met with the prosecutor before I made any decisions. Her name was Amanda Ross, and she handled fraud cases for the federal district court. Mrs. Harrison, she said, I want to be clear about something. Whether you speak at your son's sentencing or not is entirely up to you. But his plea deal isn't contingent on your cooperation. He's pleading guilty because the evidence is overwhelming. 10 years with possibility of parole after 7. 10 years? 7 at minimum. What if I spoke on his behalf? I asked. Would it make a difference? It might reduce his sentence by a year or 2, Amanda said honestly. Judges do consider family circumstances, especially when there are grandchildren involved. But Mrs. Harrison, you need to understand, your son tried to financially kill you. That's what fraud like this is. He wanted to profit from your death, and he was willing to create that death on paper to make it happen. I know, I said quietly. So the question is, Amanda continued, what do you want? Do you want leniency for him or do you want justice? I thought about that for days. Justice. What did justice even look like? Michael had betrayed me in the worst possible way. He'd looked at me and seen dollar signs. He'd calculated the worth of my death and found it acceptable. But he was still my son, the boy I'd raised, the father of my grandchildren. Jennifer had filed for divorce. She'd taken the kids and moved in with her parents. Rachel and Tommy had asked about me. Why wasn't Grandma visiting anymore? Why was Daddy in jail? What was I supposed to tell them? Your father tried to declare me dead for money. Sweethearts, want some cookies? I decided to visit Michael before the sentencing. The jail allowed supervised visits, and Detective Mitchell arranged it. He looked terrible, thinner, older, defeated. Mom, he said when they brought him in. He tried to reach for my hand across the table. I pulled back. Don't, I said. Mom, please. I'm here to listen, I said. You have 5 minutes. Tell me why. Not the excuses, not the lies. Tell me why you thought this was acceptable. Michael's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw the boy who'd cried in my arms when his father died. I was desperate, he said. The gambling debts, the loans, they were threatening me, Mom. They said they'd hurt Jennifer, hurt the kids. I panicked. I saw the insurance policy and I thought I could fix everything by declaring me dead. I didn't think they'd actually verify. I thought it would just process. I'd get the money, pay off the debts, and no one would know. But I would have known, I said, when the death certificate showed up in databases, when my accounts were frozen, when I had to prove I was alive. You would have destroyed my life to save yours. I know, he whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Are you sorry you did it? I asked. Or sorry you got caught? He didn't answer. That told me everything I needed to know. The sentencing hearing was on a Thursday in October, 7 months after that phone call had changed everything. I sat in the courtroom watching Michael stand before the judge. He looked small in his prison jumpsuit, broken. His attorney spoke first, painting a picture of a desperate man who'd made a terrible mistake. He talked about Michael's children, his previously clean record, his remorse. Then Amanda Ross stood up. Your Honor, she said, the defendant didn't make a mistake. He made a series of calculated choices. He researched how to forge documents. He paid for fake death certificates from an illegal website. He contacted an insurance company and lied repeatedly about his mother's death. He submitted fraudulent funeral home documentation. He called them multiple times asking about payment timelines. These weren't impulsive decisions. This was premeditated fraud. She paused, then looked at me. Mrs. Harrison has prepared a statement if the court will hear it. The judge nodded. Mrs. Harrison, please approach. I walked to the front of the courtroom. I'd written something, but standing there looking at my son, the prepared words felt wrong. Your Honor, I said, I'm 72 years old. I've been a widow for 27 years. I raised my son alone after his father died. I worked 2 jobs to put him through college. I helped him with his down payment on a house. I babysat my grandchildren every weekend for years. I loved him more than anything in this world. I looked at Michael. He was crying. And he looked at me and saw $300,000, I continued. He saw an obstacle to solving his problems. He didn't call me and ask for help. He didn't tell me he was in trouble. He just decided I was worth more dead than alive. My voice cracked. I will never forgive him for that, I said. Not because of the fraud itself, but because of what it showed me. My son doesn't love me. He loves what I can give him. And when I couldn't give him what he wanted, he decided to take it anyway. I turned to the judge. Whatever sentence you give him, it won't fix what he broke. He didn't just commit fraud, he killed something. Trust, love, family. Those things are dead now, Your Honor, and no amount of prison time will bring them back. The judge was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Harrison," he finally said, "you attempted to financially execute your mother. You filed paperwork that would have erased her existence, frozen her assets, destroyed her identity, all while she was alive and well. This is one of the most callous frauds I've seen in 20 years on this bench." He paused. "The court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison with eligibility for parole after 8 years. You will also be required to pay full restitution to the insurance company for investigation costs, and you will be permanently barred from being a beneficiary on any life insurance policy." Michael's legs buckled. His attorney caught him. I walked out of the courtroom and didn't look back. That was 3 years ago. Michael is still in prison. He'll be eligible for parole in 5 more years. I haven't visited him. I haven't written. I haven't accepted his calls. Jennifer is remarried now, a good man who treats my grandchildren well. Rachel and Tommy are 11 and 9. They know their father did something wrong, something that hurt people. Someday they'll know the full story, but not yet. I changed my life insurance policy. My sister is the beneficiary now. I also changed my will, my power of attorney, my healthcare directives. Michael's name isn't on anything anymore. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, turning him in, testifying against him, letting him go to prison. I don't. Because here's what I learned. Some betrayals are unforgivable. Not because forgiveness is wrong, but because some actions reveal truth. Michael showed me who he really was. A man who would rather file paperwork declaring his mother dead than have an honest conversation about money and consequences. The insurance company, specifically Jennifer and David, saved my life that day. If they hadn't made that verification call, I would have spent months or years in legal hell trying to prove my own existence. My credit would have been destroyed, my identity stolen, my peace shattered. Instead, I caught him. I stopped him, and I made sure he faced consequences. I still live in the same house in Pennsylvania. I still tend my garden. I still watch my shows and do my crossword puzzles, but I do them with the knowledge that I survived something most people can't even imagine, my own son trying to erase me from the world. The money from the life insurance policy, it's still sitting there waiting, not for Michael, never for Michael. It's for Rachel and Tommy now, educational trusts that he can't touch, even if he wanted to, something good from something terrible. Last week, I got a letter from Michael. The prison forwarded it through his attorney, who warned me I didn't have to read it. I read it anyway. It was full of apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness. He said he'd found God in prison. He said he understood what he'd done. He said he wanted a chance to make it right. I read every word. Then I put the letter in a drawer with all the others I've received over the past 3 years. Maybe someday I'll write back. Maybe someday I'll visit. Maybe someday there will be a conversation where we're both honest about what happened and what it meant. But not today. Today I'm 75 years old. I'm alive. I exist. I have my name, my identity, my life. And no one, not even my son, can take that away from me. If you've watched this whole story, thank you. Thank you for bearing witness to what happened to me. Thank you for understanding that some betrayals run so deep, survival itself becomes victory. I'm Patricia Harrison. I'm alive, and I reclaim my life the day I refuse to be erased.